Can you hear the sound now? Let me know. Looks like there's a bit of a delay. Okay, all good now. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for joining and being patient with the issues I was having. Yeah, so I saw that Paul made a comment on the first time I started this live stream. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, and my name is Heather, so you can call me that if you like. And I'm really excited about this topic. After the live stream last Saturday, I felt really inspired to really delve deeper into my spiritual journey and be really intentional about it in a way that I hadn't before. Before, I had really been just trying to keep up with my life, trying to manage the intense emotions, trying to just manage health, diet, work, school. There was a lot of chaos and stress that had been going on for quite a few years, which is natural when you're trying to get your life together, getting through school, getting a job, all of that stressful kind of situations. Paul, yes, awesome. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you found the live stream that I started again. I was a bit worried there. And it feels so beautiful. It feels like such a beautiful energy that we're in. Like, for me, it's personally been challenging, and I shared some of the challenges that I've experienced. And I can feel this really beautiful shift into this new energy of love and peace and joy, and ending the struggle. And it's not just the light at the end of the tunnel, it's like getting to the end of the tunnel and seeing the sunrise and knowing there's going to be many more sunrises and sunsets to come. All over the world, many different vistas, the most beautiful vistas you can imagine. Okay, so the topic for today is called Preparing for Divine Union. So the last time, I'm going to go over a bit of a review. We talked about the collective awakening that's happening now, and there's been many people having spiritual awakenings for quite a while now, but it's really intensifying right now. We're coming to this climax point that is building now and throughout the next coming years. I talked about one of the aspects of that spiritual awakening, where you're going through dark night of the soul, ego death, those dark thoughts and emotional heaviness. So that is purging, bringing to light everything within you that needs to be purged and cleansed, transmuted and transformed. So during this process, there can be a lot of self-judgment. Why am I going through this? Is there something wrong with me? And I mentioned how you have to pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself and give yourself a chance to experience some peace and joy and self-love, I've got this image from a house that I really like. This is something that would be amazing and incredible to live in. And so for me, putting my background as this beautiful house and seeing a video of myself as if I'm sitting in that house, this is a manifestation trick or manifestation tool for me that I really like, because I am looking at the video and I am seeing myself as if I'm sitting in this house. And it's a little bit of a trick of the mind, where the mind is like, wow, you have this, you can look back and have this kind of memory of this live stream or whatever video you did, and you remember seeing yourself in this house, but it's a bit of a trick, it's a bit of an illusion. But the thing about the subconscious mind is that it doesn't have those logical barriers that prevent us from believing that that's actually true. So part of what this spiritual awakening is doing is really starting to identify where those logical barriers are breaking down as we are transforming ourselves and really changing into a different person. So also we talked about purification and the awakening process during the spiritual journey, transforming pain into love, and developing this new level of awareness. I was curious about the background right away. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. I actually love the background too. Yeah, thank you, Ravina. Yeah, I was all stressed out about, man, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a place that I like. I was looking and looking, and anything that is nice is way, way out of my budget. And I was super anxious about this and thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to get into the market? And then I realized, wait a sec, that's ridiculous. Why would you spend your time worrying about that? No, I know who I am. I am connected to my higher dimensional self. I am connected to God. I'm connected to my power, that where I know I can create whatever I want without limitations. So I just started looking at homes over $1 million. And a lot of them I didn't like. And you have to give yourself that permission to dream, to imagine. This is part of our creative power. And when we don't allow ourselves to dream and imagine and relish in beautiful daydreams that bring us this sense of security and peace, then you are not using your creative power. The thing about this image here, it's got this timber frame, and for me, the timber frame has a sense of family and security, mostly from my teenage years, when I had a friend whose dad has a timber frame business, and the time that I spent in their house was very much connected to that sense of stability and family and peace, and it just looks beautiful. It's a great manifestation technique to see yourself with the background. Absolutely. And not only you seeing yourself with the background, but also other people seeing yourself with the background. I thought about this because you're here watching me in the background, and to a certain level, subconsciously for you, you can imagine me living in this kind of house. So we're really doing this together. So part of what we talked about is this collective awakening, seeing the illusion of the world around you. So I talked about how I started to see this, and it can be a really subtle shift in perception. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, the world around me is melting. But there's this level of detachment to the world around you and trying to get external validation from it. And what I mean is this intense desire to have things work out the way that you want them to. I'm going to give a really simple example here is the weather. Oh, I'm so sad or upset that the weather is cloudy today, or the weather's not very nice today, or I'm so upset that I'm not currently living in the place I want to live. Well, guess what you could do? You could hop on some kind of you can just use Zoom. You can just use Zoom, upload a background, and call a friend. And if you do like a FaceTime, you can do exactly this manifestation technique that I'm doing here. And you can imagine yourself in this new reality. Of course, the attachment to the external reality is attached to the idea that, oh, I'm living in where I am right now and I'm not happy about it. There's all these things that I don't like about it. So that's really attachment to what's going on around you. Another way attachment to the external reality can show up is this obsession with, oh my gosh, like I need to buy a house. Oh my gosh, I need to worry about the future. Oh my gosh, I need to get on track in terms of what everyone else is doing with their lives so I can fit into that paradigm. So you can live in the present, but you don't have to worry about what's going on. You can live in the present and also live in a state of imagination and inspiration. And from this, you have an extraordinary power to create. Okay, and we talked about shifts in consciousness, awareness of self as a spiritual being, and for me that's really showing up to a higher degree now. Releasing beliefs, rules about reality, fear, shame, blame, and anger. So there's this whole level of transformation that I'm seeing within myself. I'm seeing this potential to really jump, to really shift. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this. About a year ago, I started this journal. It was the Quantum Leap Year Journal. 2024 is a leap year. So I had this journal where I was writing in this journal, and it had the date for 2024. I would write, it would be like January 10th, 2024, and I would write in it, I'm living in this gorgeous house, and this happened, and this happened. So everything I wanted to manifest, I started writing in that journal. And I added pretty stickers. I like scrapbooking, so I have these different stickers and washi tapes, and I made it this pretty surrounding to this like journal that I was doing. And I was adding images that added to this sense of peace and security and enjoyment and all the things that I love about myself. So there were snowflakes, I love skiing, there was beautiful winter pictures. It was winter at the time when I started this journal, but you get the idea. At the time when I was doing it, I saw the potential in doing it, but I did not fully feel the excitement yet. Yeah, this is gonna happen. And that's the thing about some manifestation tools or tricks or techniques, is that you can do them and not fully believe in them, just do them. And sometimes the results will show up later because you just do it, you forget about it, and you don't always have to step into it with a high degree of belief. Sometimes you can just do it. Okay, so the topic that we're talking about today, I called it divine union because this beautiful light and love that is really, I can feel it within my own consciousness, and the friends that I talk to can feel this purging of these old thought patterns, these old emotional patterns, this old energy, and this entering into this gorgeous, amazing new energy that it's a lot. It's a lot to take in and balance, but it's really exciting and we're excited about it. Divine union. I did a video this morning, said divine union, discovering your divinity, and I talked about how it's this really beautiful coming into the full awareness of who you are. If you think about, we all have this stream of consciousness from God, from source energy, and we've individuated and developed our own individual identity. But there is this sense of oneness from where we are. And the more we connect to that, the more we connect to this beautiful, incredible energy. And we've got this union with the divine. A lot of times, divine union is used in the sense of a romantic relationship, but that is not giving it the full justice. It's really kind of stripping it of its richness. For me, it's about feeling as if you have already received it. Yeah, talking about the manifestation, absolutely. And that's what I realized. You don't have to be crazy complicated about it. If you can be in that state where, wow, I'm so thankful and I'm so happy that I've received it, that's the core essence of it. And for me, looking at this image of me sitting in this living room and imagining that, yeah, I can't believe I live here, that's exciting. That, like, the level of gratitude and thankfulness that I can feel, yeah, that's where it's at. I watched the video about an hour again and can resonate with the video. Awesome. I'm so glad. It's weird because I film the videos and I forget what I said, and I thought, oh, it's not going to be very good. But then I edited this one and I was like, wow, I really like this video. It's great. Okay, so the concept of divine union. So awesome. If you've watched that video, you're really on board with what I mean by that here. So coming into full awareness of who you are, embodying light and love. And this kind of light and love is intense. Like, it's amazing. It's incredible. And it's not going to be consistent, right? You're going to get injections of it or moments or states of intense light and love, and then you're going to integrate it into your life. High levels of bliss are possible, and unconditional love. The essence of divine union is not only in finding another person to partner with, but coming into full awareness of yourself as a being of light, as a being of love, and being able to embody that light and love in a consistent way in your life. And this kind of love supersedes any bliss you could possibly imagine finding with another person. And I mean that in the way of trying to get that from someone else. Instead, it's fully available to yourself unconditionally without needing another person to reflect it back to you. So unconditionally, that means you don't need the condition of someone else to kind of give you that. You can find it within yourself. Divine union is the point in your life where you are able to access that love within yourself, and it's free from the hindrances of external circumstances. There's nothing that you need to get right in your life to be able to access it, and it is fully available within you. Thus, within a partnership, your partner will reflect the divine light that you see within yourself. There is no misunderstanding that what you experience as divine comes from someone else, and that you would be missing out on the most glorious experience of life without that person in your life. The most glorious experience of life is always available to you right now. Yeah, so divine union is what this collective awakening process is leading us to. And if you're spiritually awakening, and this could have been happening to you for years, it can be like a gradual process where there's certain times where you're speeding up. Then you're awakening to the best possible life you could have. And I think sometimes that might be missed a bit when people talk about spiritual awakening, is that's what it's leading us to. It's leading us to having a really incredible, amazing, fulfilling life here on earth. Not just trying to delay our happiness for the afterlife, but being able to make the most of everything in the here and now. The less I'm attaching to thoughts and being present in the moment, I'm able to stay in the moment in a state of bliss, and it works best when I'm in nature. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the genuine desire for a partner versus the urge to avoid painful emotions, separation versus union, growth partners versus long-term partners, and how others help you discover divine union. So I referenced some videos, or I included links for some videos in the last live stream, and I was going to pick out parts of them and quotes from them and just create this whole picture, like get everything in this one live stream of everyone else's opinions on the subject, just to, as a reminder. I didn't even get that far, but I had lots of ideas about this state where we are moving into divine union and discovering this union within ourselves, and the hindrances to that, the state of where we have that separation compared to union with ourselves, and really the role that other people play in helping trigger us towards that. So I'm planning on doing another live stream next week to talk more about it, because there was so much that was coming out that I wanted to say when I was making notes. Yeah, so next week I'll talk about the transformation that takes place within you as you discover your divinity within, the ascension processes and mechanisms. So that's where I'm going to be referencing the other videos and using those concepts, and the bigger cosmic view. So again, referencing more concepts. Okay, so now we're really getting started on the topic. Any genuine desire you might have for deep intimacy and connection with a partner can be overshadowed by the urge to avoid any painful emotions that you are processing. Seeking out a romantic relationship with someone can be a way to avoid feeling those negative emotions. But if this is the dominant driving force behind your actions to find a partner, it can lead you to attach to people who are emotionally, psychologically, or spiritually immature, have unhealthy patterns and habits, are a drain on your life and energy, have toxic patterns, and encourage toxic patterns within you, who are a part of your continued lesson for you to learn self-love, but create pain, confusion, reinforce limitations, and reinforce this feeling of separation. And so this is really the issue with trying to find this divine union in someone else, because when it's really not for the right reasons, you're trying to escape what you're going through. So you've got the spiritual awakening, which is triggering you to do divine union, to awaken the divinity within yourself. But while you're going through this, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a very difficult process. So whether you were seeking a relationship with someone where these kind of issues were coming up before this spiritual awakening, or this was just part of what was happening, where other people can bring up stuff within you that needs to be healed, but there can be these kind of patterns that just keep you stuck. It's really a difficult balance, because the roles that people play in our lives, they're important to our growth, but they don't have to be more difficult than they need to be if we can have that awareness. Exactly. That's why it's better to find it within rather than look for it without. Yeah. So the feeling of separation can contain within it an addictive seed of hope that if you just keep trying, you can make the situation better. But it's more likely a pattern that reenacts how you received love in your childhood. And difficulty receiving love in your formative years when you were growing up can be reflected in relationship patterns where you feel the need to prove your worth. I felt this so strongly. Or have difficulty believing you are worthy of love. And this has shown up for me too. These patterns will always be reflected back to you until you learn to receive love within yourself. No other person can heal this part of you. So I've went through and I have a big list of really the contrast between the separation and union. Really, it's the before and after. So this is what we've been moving from and what we're moving towards. And I found this helpful for myself to go through it and list all of it so that when I'm living my day-to-day life, and I see one of these old patterns that are showing up, because I'm seeing old patterns show up all the time now, and at least I'm seeing them, right? Then I can have that awareness to realize, like, oh no, I can just let that go. I can let that sit there. I don't need to hold on to that. And lots of the times we are holding on to patterns. We're holding on to these emotional patterns, these thought patterns, these belief patterns, because we think they're important. We think that we need them for survival. Okay, so for this separation, energy, awareness, consciousness involves feeling cut off from love and this belief of having to earn love. So this kind of thing, it will manifest, or it will show up in how we feel, our narratives that we tell ourselves and about the world. Versus love is always available and freely plentiful. So this right here is really big because we can go deeper into it and think about all the thoughts that we think that reflect this. If love is always available, I don't need to work really hard to get people to like me. I can work on really starting to appreciate and like myself because I'm already loved. If love is always available, then I'm already loved, and I can access that from within myself. And more than being loved, at our true nature, we are love. Our consciousness is one of love. So you can, and obviously I still don't like certain people, I don't like certain situations, but I can still be a channel of love. I can still experience deep love without it needing to be directed even at anything. Okay, so another thing is being focused on trying to get one person to love you. So that would be a separation where it's this, again, this neediness and desperation. And I need to try and get this one person to like me. Versus a belief that you can easily find many people who can love you. So the contrast here is really that, well, maybe I can only ever try to get this person to love me, so I have to work hard with this one person, and there might be a fear that I might not be able to get anyone to love me. And it's really this, you've got this tiny little trickle, this tiny little stream of love, and you're worried that it's going to get shut off, instead of turning the corner, realizing there's an entire waterfall. Okay, so then a separation belief would be love is difficult and a struggle, versus the union awareness is love is easy and flows to you. And I think we can resonate with, at some point in our lives, that we've experienced this level of separation, and we thought that that was true. But we're stepping now more into the love is easy, and I can easily find people who love me. You are already loved, but most think it is a point that has to be reached. Oh, okay, so that's a really great way to say it, is that this is the change in awareness, is that thinking that we're going to get to that point sometime, at some point, to realizing I'm already there. I just need to open myself up to experiencing it. Maybe you get up and you're moody and someone else is trying to make you feel better, but you're not open to it, you're not receptive to it, right? Maybe there's a reason that you're upset and you keep focusing on that reason why you need to be upset. So you're preventing yourself from being able to have your mood lifted. So that's a little kind of example there to illustrate that. Okay, so you might be focused on achieving a partner in the past. I felt this, and I wrote this down because this is something that I've realized that I was doing. I was trying to achieve a relationship. And of course there's going to be worry about, how much status do they have and how much your partner or potential partner would increase your status, worried about what other people think. Now, shifting into an awareness of divine union, you're going to be living focused on enjoying the moment. And Paul, you mentioned that. And when you're looking for a partner, if you're focused in the moment, you just want someone who's going to be with you in that moment and enjoying that moment with you. You're concerned about how you feel in the relationship, what you think about what's happening, not what other people think, not what other people feel. Love is easy and flows to you. Yes, yes, yes. I love this line. Yeah. I've had those issues about being open to receive love. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, we are, through this process, our circuitry, our neural circuitry is being changed because repetitive thoughts happen within neural loops, and and thoughts that happen all the time become grooves. So to change our thinking, you are changing your neural circuitry. And I think that's part of what happens with the spiritual awakening. You're getting this burst of energy, which is helping changing that neural circuitry. It is changing the inner workings of you, of your body, not just your physical body, but at the different levels, the energetic, the spiritual, the etheric body. There's all these changes that are happening, and that's going to be opening you up to receiving love. So opening yourself up to receiving love really isn't only something that you can just mentally force or push your way through. It's something that happens through this process. And that's part of the healing any emotional wounds or traumas too. Because you have to be present with those. Beyond that space, if you can start expanding yourself, you can expand yourself into the space where there is love surrounding that emotional pain. So love is always there. We don't always directly experience it, but as we get better at experiencing and feeling emotions, feeling sensations, feeling what's happening, you can start to see there is a tapestry. There's all these different layers of emotions. You can feel depths of sadness, but also this melancholy and some bitterness and a bit of sweetness. Like there's all these different kind of flavors to each emotions. So separation consciousness versus the divine union consciousness. Separation would be focused on stability versus having an inner sense of security despite whether you have a partner or not. So the goal of the relationship is growth and freedom to discover greater depths of yourself. So this is whether you're alone or with a partner. Before you recognize you can find that stability within yourself, subconsciously you might be focused on how does this person help me stay comfortable, and maybe even avoid being challenged or growing, because sometimes like we have these attachments and we kind of stay stuck to people because it's safe, because it's comfortable, and also because focusing on them might be giving us a way to distract ourselves from challenging ourselves, from growing, from healing certain things that would come up if they left or if we left them. Okay, so another thing that people have talked about is settling for someone. And there might be this worry that I need to settle for this person because good people are scarce. Versus, I can easily attract incredible people because I'm so magnetic and every amazing, incredible person wants to be with me. And isn't that the truth? Yeah. Because as you're taking in all this light and love, guess what? You are so magnetic and so incredible, and you are like a beacon of light shining, and people are going to be able to sense it and be drawn to you in magical ways. And this is kind of interesting because it relates to the previous live streams that I did on dream interpretation. We're talking about the unconscious and how through the unconscious the dreams reveal predictions of the future. The dreaming states connect to that unconscious state, which is like this huge network that is connected to a deeper source of wisdom and knowledge, and that is able to even predict the future. So knowledge that is beyond ourselves. So you better believe it that you are shining like this lighthouse. People are going to be able to find you through their connection to their unconscious in ways that they don't even understand how it's possible. Okay, so, this separation consciousness is finding purpose, meaning, and value, and love primarily from others, versus deriving your primary sense of self-worth, love, and value from within. This is so important, and it's such a journey, and it's such a process, but the more you got to think about it this way. If you're doing spiritual work, you are working on your energetic body, you're working on your spiritual body, and boy, are you making it beautiful. It's like going to the gym. It's doing some weights for your spiritual and energetic body, getting really fit, getting really sexy. And, if you want to talk about being sexy on the inside, this is what this is all about. Like, we are attractive, not just based on physical appearance, but on the inner qualities, not just character, not just personality, but the whole spiritual being, the whole different levels of our being. People form attachments real easy, and the key is to let go of attachments, especially to outcomes, because it's always based from fear. Yeah. Forming attachments has been a way for us to survive, so it's supernatural. Spiritual workout, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've been sweating that out with my spiritual workout. I know you guys have been doing it too. We are all divine beings. Yeah. It's so interesting to be human and waking up to your divine self. The chakras are shining like Christmas lights. Oh, thank you, Ravina. That is such a great image. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit. I mentioned twin flames in the last live, so I'm bringing it up here, talking about growth partners versus long-term partners. And what I mean by long-term is probably like a romantic relationship with someone that it's going to last the test of time. They'll be with you for a while, whether that's a long period of time or the rest of your life. Although for a lot of us, we're we're not living in that same paradigm of having a lifelong partner because we're growing so fast and we're just having to disconnect from people as needed. But you can still absolutely have a beautiful, incredible long-term partnership because you are the creator of your own reality. And this is the amazing thing. And that's probably one of the things that I find can be toxic about tarot readings, because if they start saying negative stuff, if you resonate with that and that's your situation, it can feel good to feel that level of validation. However, if you're ready to move on from that situation, you want to start thinking and being in the state of where you want to be, not hashing up old stuff. And so sometimes that's what can happen. Like, if you're listening to a generalized tarot reading, it can start hashing up old stuff, and maybe energetically, like, you've moved on. Yeah, maybe stuff is happening around you in the 3D, but we're disconnecting from that, so we're not really caring about that anymore, and we're living in this new reality. So sometimes those tarot readings can just keep you kind of stuck and attached to what's happening outside of you instead of to this new reality. Sometimes there are people who can channel these beautiful, incredible energies, and so that's great. If it makes you feel really good, then go do it by all means. Listen to something and watch something that is going to make you feel good. If it doesn't feel so great, time to detach. That's awesome, Ravina, and can feel your good energy. Yeah, I love having you, Ravina, and thank you so much, Paul, for being here. So people can primarily fall into one category of whether they're a growth partner or a long-term partner, or can fulfill both roles. Someone could start off by triggering your growth, but then become a long-term partner once the energy between you is stabilized and harmonized. Or someone could be a stable long-term partner that you have a harmonious connection with, but at some point it might inhibit your growth, and then you go your separate ways. The roles of people in our lives are fluid and dynamic, so the roles they can play change. And they don't have to. The big thing here is that everyone has such a unique path and such a unique journey. For example, I've never had a romantic relationship. Like, I've gone on dates, but I've never had that form of attachment. And I've been deeply, deeply immersed in my spiritual and personal growth, sobbing on the floor every night for years. And that's okay. In fact, that's helped me do what I needed to do to be ready for this moment now. Thanks, Paul. All the spiritual workout is paying off, I guess. Love your and Heather's energy very much. Yeah, we appreciate and love each other. That makes it fun. Yeah, it makes it worth it. The interaction that we can have with other people, it makes this experience more alive and vibrant. And you know what? Absolutely. All the spiritual workout you're doing is definitely paying off, Ravina. But I'm sure you were a beautiful soul to begin with. So I put different terms here. I put karmic and twin flame into the growth category and soulmate into the long-term category. And I've heard people can have a twin flame who is a soulmate. I believe it. I haven't heard a karmic being a soulmate, but I don't know. Those are just general terms that we've heard, but the term itself doesn't matter. I like to think about it as, what role is this person playing in my life for me right now? And I've talked about, the person at work, and right now they're playing this growth role in my life. And what that does for me to recognize that is to realize I don't want to try and expect them to fall into the category of that long-term partner. And that helps me release expectations. And also not get stuck in getting confused about the situation. I think there is this paradigm that we're releasing from, where we really understand the romantic paradigm that's really been drilled into us, but the paradigm of people who play a role of encouraging our growth, we haven't seen stories of that in the media, in movies growing up. We haven't really understood that at the same level, and that's something that we've really been missing. I would like to think that it's totally possible that we can start having our media change to portray this in a new way, in a way that's healthy. So, how do you tell if it's like a soulmate or long-term partner versus someone who is primarily in your life to stimulate your growth? So if this is something that you're using for yourself, you're going to make your own list. This is my personal list. So what I'm saying here doesn't apply to everyone. 100%. Everything that's been experienced in the past has led to this moment. Everything happens for a reason. And these interactions are divinely calculated and numerically perfect. Ooh, thank you, Paul. I can feel my heart smiling. I guess I haven't put my camera back on, so you can't see me smiling. There. Okay, so some things that I listed here is shared values, shared lifestyle. For me, it's really important. Those are the two things that are really important, and it's easy to mesh your lives together. And this is generic relationship advice, and you both have healthy relationships with friends and family. And I'm really referencing this from a video that I'm thinking about that is a TED Talk that talks about kind of dealing with those initial romantic feelings and trying not to get unhealthily attached to someone who isn't good for you. And these are things that they've mentioned in that talk. You're both happy on your own and not depending on this relationship working out to be happy. There is a sense of calm and peace versus being desperate and needy. You can let it unfold slowly. This is a big thing. Versus needing everything to happen right away. And your new house. I know. Oh, I've been smiling so much in this live stream. Just the topic and the new house. Enjoying the energy of it. If you feel a certain desperation for a relationship to work out, you might be trying to use this person to avoid your own healing. So this is something that I've just noticed within myself. They could be fulfilling a growth stimulating role in your life right now, which is guiding you to feel through and process the uncomfortable emotions arising for you now. So for me, thinking about this helps me just to take a breath and release all the confusing reasons why I feel attracted to this person, but it doesn't make sense for me to date them, and I want to really feel all these good feelings, but how is this supposed to work out? And realize they are fulfilling a beautiful, incredible role in my life, helping me to heal and grow in ways that I can't do on my own. So it's something to be thankful and grateful for. And this is something I'm working on, this thankfulness and gratitude for, whatever situation I'm in. This thankfulness and gratitude, like, you start feeling that, and that is on such a high frequency, such a high vibration. And if you can really genuinely feel that and start to change your perspective, start to imagine things in a way where you can feel that gratitude. For example, I really like, imagining myself living in this gorgeous, beautiful, amazing house and just feeling so incredibly thankful and happy because I know how much I've struggled in the past, and that those past experiences, they add meaning and depth and dimension to this experience. Okay, and we've got this slide here, and I've already talked about it. Okay, so what about fear about a relationship not working out? So you'll notice here, what I'm generally talking about is a lot of these patterns, a lot of these thought patterns, emotional patterns, habits that are around these different themes. And these are ways, just reminders, to recognize them showing up. So when you have fear about a relationship not working out, and again, I'm talking about myself, if this person triggers such intense passion, happiness, and love within you that you've never experienced before, and are afraid that you will never experience again if you don't end up with this person, remember that they are triggering you to realize that love is always available to you. You are learning to live in a state of unconditional love, being able to access divine love without needing another person to trigger it within you. They are teaching you how to discover, to release judgment, fear, and worry, and let love flow freely within you. You are so magnetic that you can always attract someone who embodies these beautiful states. And any thoughts that contradict the reality of your abundance of love are false. They're an illusion. They are a deception. So maybe you've heard that the external 3D world that we live in, it's an illusion, right? A lot of this world that we live in, we attach meaning to what happens, to the sensation, to the sensory input that we receive. And these meanings can be false. They can form this illusion and this deception. So that's really what we mean by the Maya, the world of illusion and deception. That's the key, not to need a relationship to make you complete. It's best to not need it, and then when it comes or unfolds, it will be magical. Yeah. And I've heard so many times, you've probably heard so many times, you don't want to try and need this other person to make you whole, to make you complete. But then how that actually works out and shows up, it's really there's a lot of depth to it. Like, this is a process. Yeah, talking about magic. I feel the magic. I feel the excitement. I'm so I'm so excited. And especially coming here and talking about this with you, it really makes it real for me. It's like, yeah, cuz I'm focusing on it. I'm like, yeah, this is real. Like, this is, it makes it more tangible. How others help you discover divine union. Yeah, so my notes say twin flame or karmic partner, and that both are valuable. I was watching a video today that was talking about the difference between a twin flame or karmic partner. You can probably find some of those videos. But everyone's playing this different role in our lives, and releasing our expectations of ourselves and others and letting things be as they are, there's just this incredible peace to it. Those relationships are designed to stimulate your growth. I've imagined myself finding my soulmate all my life. I finally kind of let it go, and as I'm progressing on my spiritual journey, I feel that lack is being fulfilled. Awesome. Yeah, I'm connecting to what you said, Ravina. There is such a dedication there that I think a lot of people don't understand. But there's this beauty and there's this purity to that. And if we're totally honest, I mean, you want the steak at the 5-star restaurant, metaphorically speaking. You're not eating at McDonald's. Like, we're going for 5-star dining here. And of course, a lot of sometimes I watch those videos on like the Michelin star restaurants, and a lot of them, they're vegan and vegetarian now, and they're so creative and unique, and they look delicious. If it happens, that's fine, but I'm not dependent on it for my happiness and fulfillment. Yeah. When did we start thinking that we needed that? It's such an interesting paradigm. But the fun part of this is having those moments where you can feel just that excitement and joy and peace, like those beautiful moments of love within you. I had horrible self-talk. I used oracle decks to help improve my self-talk because it was so bad, and it helped so much. I really love the decks with the paintings by Rasuli and the poems by Rumi. And they're all about this divine love, this passionate love with the divine. And I don't think I understood that when I was going to church, because it's also referenced in Song of Songs in the Old Testament. I didn't really get it at that point, but now it's starting to make more sense. Like, there is this kind of cheap thrill to this romance seeking. So there's the cheap thrill aspect to it. I'll also say there is this level of inspiration that we can connect to and tap into. So I'm not I'm not demeaning or diminishing in any way, because there's so many things that you can use for inspiration to tap into and just leveling up your energy. But yeah, I'm starting to see how this is high vibe dining. High vibe dining, yeah. If you're on these high vibes, you cannot be dating or people who aren't. And it's crazy to expect yourself to. I've been on the dating apps. I've been trying, and I gave up. I gave up because I thought, it felt gross. So I was like, I'm not doing this. I know what you're talking about, and it does feel great. I'm so glad. Yeah. Okay, so how others help you discover divine union. So, talking about relationships that are designed to stimulate your growth doesn't have to be romantic. It can be a coworker, it can be a close friend, family members, yeah, whoever it is. If it is someone that you do feel attracted to, you can struggle with the desire for it to be a long-term partnership or soulmate. Now, accepting that the role that this person is playing in your life, it helps bring you peace. And have faith that you will always end up with the best possible partner for you. You're not going to be missing out on anything. This is a lie. I'm going to be missing out. No, you have beautiful things for you. Appreciate the beauty in the lessons you are learning now. Whatever pain you are feeling is the pressure that is forming you into a diamond, the rarest, most beautiful, brilliant diamond. I had bad self-talk as well. I know. I didn't realize how bad it was. There was this conditioning to have self-discipline, but then along the way it just turned into beating up on myself. My new way is positive affirmations, especially before sleeping and right when I wake up. Awesome, Paul. That takes diligence. That takes being disciplined about that. And that's a great way that affirmations can work, where you are focused on something, and even if you don't feel that belief in the moment, you are conditioning yourself to start to take that in as your normal. I think I talked about this in a video, but I'm not sure if I posted the video yet. Probably not. Okay, so I've got some more lists here of separation versus divine union. So in the separation, we've got duality versus non-duality. So these are terms that I've heard people talk about. And then some of the biggest differences here are the emotional themes. Whenever you have a thought, if you go into your body and just feel the emotion behind it, and then you know, if you feel fear, isolation, judgment, worry, desperation, sadness, hurt, pain, Okay, this is where it's coming from. And this is being purged, it's being released. You don't need to worry about the specific thoughts. Just take some time to let yourself feel the feeling of it, and that'll release the grip of whatever thought patterns you're experiencing. Okay, versus peace, security, joy, love, contentment, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Okay, so for separation, it involves chasing after what you want, which we're so used to, we're so conditioned to do this, and we give people praise and medals for doing this. But we're moving out of that. We're moving into a space of already being in possession of what we want. And we can see how external circumstances are pushing us towards this. You can't chase after what you want. It's not realistic. You gotta be. Okay, separation, trapped by limiting beliefs, versus in union consciousness, realization of your God nature, creative power, and ability to manipulate reality energetically. And that's what we're all about. Okay. So separation, we've got dependency on, attachment to, and seeking validation from the external reality, versus divine union, acceptance of whatever is going on outside of you. Okay, separation. Stuck to things being the way they are, versus you don't care what's happening outside of you. So you're detached from the external world. In terms of the separation consciousness, we've got reinforcing continued patterns. Looking for clues outside of you that you might get what you want, versus being fully immersed in and focused on your inner reality. Okay, separation. Repeated cycles of hope and despair. Always feeling lack, versus nurturing habitual thoughts and images about what you already have. About you already having what you want. So this is really big because sure, it's fine to feel that lack, to feel what's happening, but then return back. Go back to the disciplined state where you're living where you want to be in your head. Separation. Arguing with reality versus allowing the external reality to be what it is. Okay, separation. Having repetitive thoughts about how others should be different. Being irritated and frustrated with others and dealing with uncomfortable situations by avoiding them. Versus in divine union, we are allowing the external to be what it is. You have mental clarity and you're focused inward. So there's a big clue right there. If you don't have mental clarity, either you can be purging something, and we're purging this separation consciousness. We are releasing it. So just give yourself some space to purge it. Okay, separation consciousness, being stuck in the mind versus in union, you're centered in the heart. We've got limited logic where you can't see the whole perspective. So this old paradigm, we're letting go of the pitfalls of logic, because a lot of the times we use logic and we don't see where it's actually not true. If we want to step out and see the big picture of truth, this logic, it falls flat. What's more powerful? Wisdom, your intuition and knowing. Especially what we're stepping into. We're stepping into our power. We're stepping into this heightened intuition, this heightened knowing. And this old paradigm it tries to figure things out. Now, the new paradigm, we don't need to know how things will work out. And there is a sense of already knowing. Like, the knowledge and knowing arrives. This is a really cool experience. I'm not big on non-duality, and like Anna Brown, and she is awesome with awareness, and her saying that your God, goddess, and what you're looking for is not out there. That's key about accepting the external for what it is. Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome. That's so true. Like, it's so important to stay grounded in this reality. And there can be a lot of spiritual bypassing, that like trying to escape this reality. When we live in this continued sense of peace and joy and love, we are leaving this state of non-duality, leaving this state of duality, the duality of up and down, the roller coaster of emotions. We are entering into this perfect sense of neutrality, moving into peace and joy, where it's possible to sustain those higher frequency vibrations, but in a sense they seem less exciting, just because you don't have that contrast. At the end of the day, terms are just terms that we use to try and understand what we're experiencing. We're not team spiritual bypassing. We're team healing and transmutation. Yeah. I have moments where I think, I don't have the perfect spiritual knowledge, and I'm not up to date with all the terms and all of this. Like, I have some awareness of it, but what's even more important than that is really your heart and your presence and how you're living your life in this moment. And that's hard enough as it is. Okay, so I've got some more contrasted things here. So there is this element of making plans to avoid getting hurt when you're in this separation state, versus being able to create new narratives about yourself and your life that feel better. I guess those aren't really contrasted, but there is this openness. You have a soft, open heart, and you're willing to be vulnerable. You're able to accept whatever you're feeling and whatever is happening and flow with it. And there is this rigidity that happens within the separation consciousness. And I'm just using the titles here to make sense. If someone is not looking at the video and they're just listening, I'm trying to be clear about what I'm talking about. So, along with the making plans to avoid getting hurt, there's this obsession with the truth or reality to justify narrow-minded, pessimistic thinking, to avoid healing those old patterns or feeling vulnerable. There can be a hardened heart and a lot of resistance. This is hard. This is something that I've struggled with, and I notice that shows up within me, this resistance, and I'm really trying to embrace it and become a lot better at dealing with it. For example, I have resistance about the attraction that I feel to my coworker, and I'm just trying to step into it and release that resistance more. I try to find ways to enjoy it and feel like, wow, I'm feeling this intense, beautiful, romantic energy at work, and just enjoy it. And it doesn't matter if it's not going anywhere, if nothing's happening with it, if there is no end goal to it, that it's just happening. Okay, so I talked more about the using distractions to avoid pain. That can be many, many different things, where basically you're regulating your emotions in unhealthy ways. So I think we are more at the stage where we're comfortable with feeling high and low emotions and able to identify as the space outside of painful feelings or thoughts and being the observer. We're able to process those emotions and thoughts. Okay, so there's another contrast where we contrast getting temporary highs from indulging in whatever you're indulging in to avoid feeling low, which can trigger an even lower low once the high wears off, and being stuck on the roller coaster of emotions compared to being connected to eternal peace, and valuing that eternal peace more than chasing shallow, temporary emotional highs, and knowing that you can access that peace again when you are processing negative emotions and you can't feel that in that moment, but you know it's there. So there's another thing that I mentioned here, which is practical, the overly permeable boundaries or overly rigid boundaries, or both, compared to consistent boundaries that reflect a sense of self-love and self-worth. And I specifically mention that I don't say a hard and fast rule here. I just say that good boundaries, they're going to reflect that you love yourself and you value yourself. And you can always ask yourself, is this a good value? Is this a good boundary? By, well, does this show that I respect and love myself? So we can also contrast blaming others for your lack of self-love. This is tricky and insidious because it can show up ways that where we don't expect it to, that we're kind of used to and normalized, versus seeing how you project your lack of self-love onto others. Okay, I should come up with an example for this. So for an example of this, I'm going to say is judging my coworkers for being childish, talking about video games, and then I showed up to work on Monday morning and made some fart jokes. And then I felt bad about myself because I'd been judging my coworkers, but really I had been judging myself by judging them. It wasn't a terrible joke. It just I was telling my coworker that I woke up in the morning and my sister was airing out the house and standing outside even though it was quite cold because the house apparently smelled like farts. And I found that hysterically funny in that moment. And I judged myself for being so childish, for finding that funny and feeling the urge to share it with my coworker. This judgment, it is a lack of self-love. It's a lack of ability to integrate and acknowledge that part of me that has an immature sense of humor. And my coworkers, they appreciate and accept me regardless. It's really just me judging myself. And I didn't notice how this was an issue. It took me a while. Like, so many times I would show up to work and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my coworkers are so childish. Well, guess what? My coworkers appreciate and love me for who I am, and they are teaching me to love myself. Vulnerability and authenticity is what's coming forth and what people and this world needs. Yeah. And this is what we've been practicing here, and it's painful. It's so hard. It's scary. Video games are childish, though. Just kidding. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the judgment comes up, and it's okay. That's allowed to be there. Video games are becoming a major collective addiction. Yeah. I mean, there are some of my coworkers that show up with like dark circles around their eyes on Monday morning. So I know what they've been doing on the weekend. I think that we all know that, and that what really matters most to us is to overcome our own addictions. And when we can do that, we're less bothered by other people's addictions. I'm trying to work on that. Realize how my judgment of others is really reflecting a judgment of myself, and that I need to work on myself to become free from that. Okay, back to serious topics now. Okay, so we've got some notes on separation consciousness, thinking the source of problems lie outside of yourself, this victim mentality, versus recognizing where, this is the recognizing where it's difficult to love yourself, more ties into the last slide. But it does relate to this judgment. So if you're judging that, if that person would just change, that would fix my problems, versus recognizing your judgment of others as a reflection of your judgment of yourself, and then that reflecting where it's difficult to love yourself. So people are reflecting this to us all the time. Learning to accept the self-critical pattern and letting it dissolve through your presence, because you can't push it away, you can't shove it down, it's going to pop its head back up. You have to let it be there. And as you let it be there, it's like a child screaming for attention, and as soon as you give it attention, it starts to calm down. And eventually, it's fine. It's not demanding your attention anymore. Okay, so there's another thing that I mentioned here is the expectations of others, expecting others to behave in a certain way so they don't trigger your wounds, and implicit contracts. I'll do this and I expect you to do this, and I'm upset if you don't. I've done that. And I've realized, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and I don't know how to stop. Versus acceptance of others, allowing others to trigger your wounds. Ooh, that's hard. Allowing yourself to trigger others. This is something that I didn't realize, that I can allow myself to offend other people, to make other people uncomfortable, even though I wasn't trying to or intending to, but that's okay. I'm allowed to do that. Releasing expectations and freedom to discover. This is really freedom to live your life. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, I don't think we're here, but, I've felt this in the past, being consumed by your own pain, so you can't see or have any sensitivity to the pain of others. Versus being able to recognize when others are in pain, hiding behind a mask, and having compassion for them while maintaining your own emotional boundaries. Okay, so we are leveled up, and I think for me, I'm starting to be able to see this. Okay, this is the last part of this section. So I'm going to be wrapping up soon. It's been a while, but there's a lot to talk about here, so that's okay. So separation, believing things other people say at face value, even when it's clear they are acting from an unconscious space, versus trusting your intuition and seeing the truth. You know what? It's not always helpful to call people on their bullshit because they might lie until they're blue in the face. But just acknowledge and validate yourself for what your intuition is telling you. And the thing is that, if you're struggling with my intuition is different from what I'm seeing, just allow whatever you're seeing. You know what? If that's what it is, that's okay. My intuition tells me something else, but then that's an element of accepting and allowing whatever is happening and allowing your internal reality to be different from your external reality. The last point, understanding spiritual concepts mentally versus embodying and living out your spirituality. And that's what we're doing here. Yeah. And this is the part of the proof is in the pudding. I'm learning that now to really have acceptance of others. Yeah. This is such a profound lesson. So I have some examples for the last couple ones that kind of tie them together. I'll go through these examples and then I just have 2 more review slides. Thank you so much for staying with me throughout this. Okay, so believing things others say at face value. We keep distracting you, lol. Hence it took a while, I guess. But I love this video. Thank you. Made screenshots of some slides so I can read them again later. Awesome. I'm so glad that you're appreciating the time I took to make all the slides. But yeah, it's helpful for me too to really go through and be really thorough about it. And I think I should do that too. I should probably save screenshots of the slides. You guys are adding to it. You're not distracting me, you're adding to it. Okay, so this example that I'm going to talk about is really about, this idea of where I talked about people being consumed by their own pain and wearing a mask and not being sensitive to the pain of others. And in terms of relationships, I took a digital course from Bob Grant years ago, and it was called The Bonding Code. One interesting thing about it was he talked about how the masculine, this is just a paradigm, but would go through infatuation. So infatuation, then attraction. And the faster this happened, the more it would spike the emotions. And then disillusionment. And of course, the more the emotions would spike, the more they would like drop off like crazy. So you get people who rush into this relationship and then it just falls apart and they're like, what happened? And he was saying to have a lasting relationship, you need to build it slowly. So then when the disillusionment stage happens, it's not a shock and you can make it through it. Of course, you've got all the hormones that are triggered with romantic relationships that add to this high. But the interesting thing was, after the disillusionment phase, they go through like a testing phase and then a healing emotional childhood wounds phase. And during this phase, they will pull back. Because when you are healing emotional wounds, you are going into that childlike state. You are re-experiencing the emotions and also the limited paradigm and perspective that you had when that wound was created, so that you can re-experience it. And when people are healing emotional childhood wounds, they are not necessarily acting from their full capacities as an adult, their full logical capacities, their full emotional capacities. So they can act in very hurtful ways. It's like they've got a wound and the wound is just bleeding all over the place and they've got all their thorns up. They have a fortress of thorns up to protect themselves, and anyone who comes close is just gonna get impaled with the thorns. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are a bad, awful person. And if you try to engage with them when they're like this, because you're seeking validation from them, it won't be pretty, but there might be a possibility for forgiveness later, as long as this is the situation that's happening and this person isn't just a horrible, narcissistic, toxic person and does this kind of behavior all the time. And people forgive other people when they do hurtful things. And I think this might be why. So I'm looking at my example. So this was the background. I'm looking at my example, and I'm not sure if my initial assessment of the situation was correct, but I'm going to share it anyways. So they're talking about divine union in the sense of reuniting with their counterpart, and someone was saying, no, this person doesn't deserve me in their life. They're talking about, I don't think I should take him back if he comes back and brags about how many people he was intimate with and all of that. And this comment really stood out to me because I didn't actually know if this had happened or this was a fear that this person who wrote this comment was projecting. So if it's a fear, then we can see how they were living in fear and projecting that fear. And like when we're in this process of working through our wounds, yeah, those fears are going to come up. And that's okay. We can just be working through that process. So if this person did actually come back and say that, they could only say that from a place of being in pain and hiding behind a mask. Regardless of whether they said it and regardless of whether it was true or not, that they actually did that. Of course, no partner who loves you would ever start going on and on about their ex or people they've been with or shoving it in your face about what they've been doing with others. They value you so much that they would not want, or a loving partner would, they would value you so much that they would not want to mess anything up with you by doing that. So if anyone would do that, they would do it from a place of fear that they are unworthy of you and that you will reject them, hiding behind a mask of bravado trying to pump up their own ego, being very unconscious, too stuck in their own pain to see how they are hurting you and thereby hurting themselves, potentially triggered by you, so they're not healed and not someone you'd want to be around, wounded, bleeding, baring their teeth and thorns, re-experiencing childhood wounds to process them, and thereby in the emotional and mental state where those childhood wounds were created, so very immature and childish. I personally thought from this comment that this was a projection of fears. But I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on in that situation, and I do have an awareness that there's lots of situations that are not great. And that's the beauty of what we talked about today, is that we can be in that divine union within ourselves and not dependent on someone else to try and change. And when we have that healing within ourselves, it gives other people the space to do their own healing. And that's why it's not a good idea to look to others for validation, because they could be going through their own wounds being triggered and trying to heal through them. Assume the best. Imagine the scenario you want. Don't let your fears get to you. Don't believe all your thoughts. If you have thoughts that are stressing you out, just tell those thoughts they aren't true. Start saying the opposite of those things in your mind. Doesn't matter if you don't believe it's true. You can start to feel better even if you start to saying in your mind what you want to believe is true. And the thoughts that were causing you pain might actually turn out to be false anyways. So don't torture yourself with focusing on thoughts that feel painful. For me personally, I notice the person that I feel attracted to at work. This happened a couple times where I was criticizing them really strongly in my mind. I would think, I can't believe I have feelings for this person. I would criticize them really harshly in my mind. And I recognized that that was an avoidant pattern where I was it was a subconscious self-protection mechanism. Feeling those intense feelings felt really scary because it meant to that avoidant pattern that it could lead me to being vulnerable and getting hurt. And if I had deep feelings for someone, I couldn't stay emotionally distant and safe. I couldn't maintain control, so I would criticize him in my mind and try to repress my feelings. And this would happen while we were like a couple meters away from each other, sitting in this office. And then he'd start to talk about his girlfriend, and then I would feel pain. But I didn't make that connection between what I was doing energetically and how he was responding physically. And I'm not saying that I caused that. I'm not taking full responsibility for that. I'm just saying that what our energy does affect other people's, and especially for this person that I feel that strong connection with, of course, my energy is going to affect him. And it's possible that the energy that I was putting out there could have an effect where he didn't feel safe, and that his childhood wounds could have been triggered, and then he put up a protective shield by trying to make his life seem better. Part of my criticisms of him were about him being nerdy and awkward and having acne and thinking how could anyone possibly want to date him, which is weird because I felt such a strong connection or attraction to him. But it, you know, these, when you're trying to protect yourself, the thoughts that come out of the mind are not logical at all. And I can see how what he was saying would have been a shield for him in that sense. And since then, I've realized that I want to be more of a space of love and be more compassionate and understanding within my own mind and my own heart, creating more of a safe space and being okay with him triggering that fear and anxiety of losing control within me and being more mature about that. So it's not as if I've like outwardly been nasty or anything. And I realized that this is all part of my growth, releasing the stories, releasing any hurt that's triggered, and being okay with that. And being appreciative of the gift that he is giving me in those moments. And that gift is the activation energy to build up and purify my emotional, mental, and spiritual body in this spiritual awakening ascension process. And that's incredible. That's really what I've been hoping that I've really communicated well in what we've been talking about here, and communicating my excitement about that. Thank you for your awesome energy and your detailed work. Thank you. I'm so glad you appreciate it. So relatable, criticizing someone you actually have feelings for. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, it seems logical to criticize them, but it's like, oh, it's not really about them, it's about me. I'm glad you guys resonated with the example that I gave. It's that kind of moment where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I should share this. There's this judgment that says, well, this is kind of a silly example. Okay. So that's pretty much it for today. We talked about this genuine desire for a partner versus the urge to avoid painful emotions, all these themes surrounding the separation versus union, growth partners versus long-term partners, and really appreciating what someone is bringing to us in our life at the moment, and how others help you just to discover divine union. Thank you for this video. Sending you both lots of love. Good night. Okay, and then next week, I wanted to talk more about the transformation that takes place within you as you discover divinity within, ascension processes and mechanisms, and the bigger cosmic view. So I'm hoping to reference other people's work and what they're saying to give more of a vocabulary and like kind of like pad out the mental space of what I want to convey and communicate. Oh wow, it's so late for you, Ravina. Thank you for joining. I will do my best to do an earlier live stream next week. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, if you can make it next week, we'll see you then. Bye.